Okay, hello everybody. So we're back again. There are a couple of things that I wanted to go over. They're pretty brief. Once again, we have Tim Watros with Digital Advisors, a division of Capital Advisors Group. Tim, thanks a lot for joining.
Hey, Kevin, really glad to be here. It's a pleasure, and this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for having me back.
You bet. So one of the things that we want to jump into right away is a email that we just sent out to you on the governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. This is just a small part of what is actually a small overall pot of money the feds have given for education. This is $355 million of money that the governor is going to have a lot of discretion over. One of the things I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing to you is that buried in that alert is a link to a letter that we have drafted that we want you to send to the governor. And what the point is, because he has so much discretion over it, he can even spend some of it on higher ed, that we want him to, as much as possible, instead of creating sort of state administered programs with that money, that he kicks all of it out the door to the field so that school districts get as much of it as possible. So that letter conveys that point. And it also underscores the need for small school districts that there's some kind of a minimum there, because if you just send money out on an ADA basis, small school districts don't ever have anything they can do anything with. So that's the governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. The one we're still waiting for is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. That's the $1.6 billion bigger pot. Governor can't really control a lot of those monies. That's the money that's going to go out based on Title I. And so the combination of the two, when you take a look at it, is our share, the 1.6 and the 355, of a total of a $31 billion pot of money that Congress has appropriated. And I know, Tim, you were talking about, I guess, hearing from Governor Bob Weiss, who's a friend of mine. He's the former governor in West Virginia, but real big education leader now. And I guess you were on a call with him yesterday.
Yeah, we did a federal update, Kevin, just trying to hear what's happening in DC, and you'll actually find a little link to that as well. He had actually some pretty good wisdom, and that was back in 2009 when there was a stimulus package that came to support education. It was about 3 times the size of the stimulus that we just got. So while we're excited about receiving those dollars, it's actually far less than it was 10 or 12 years ago. And this seems like, let's just say, a crisis of equal or greater importance. So I would say, the advocacy that Kevin is encouraging you to take action on right now, please take action and use your combined voice as leaders to send the messages out to your associations, let's say Congress, to go up the federal food chain, and of course the governor, to make sure that they're hearing the needs of school districts in California.
So that was one thing. And the other thing I want to mention to you is, that there is a major debate going on between the leadership of the Senate and the House over whether or not there's going to be this next stimulus for small business. Democrats have been wanting other things to be in there, including a package, again, pretty big package, a $200 billion package they've talked about just for education. So there's going to be waves. They're ultimately going to get to some agreement, I'm suspecting, so that we will have some help from the federal government that would rival, I hope, what happened in the stimulus package that they did almost a decade ago. So we'll see what happens with it, but we do need to keep the advocacy up on that. So the other thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow we are going to have a call. I think I briefly made reference to it in our last video update that we gave you. We're going to have a call with the chairman of the FCC. That is going to be focused on trying to talk about how we can leverage the very strong federal authority that exists today to compel internet service providers to provide internet access for the homes of families that have school-age kids. We're going to have that conversation. I would think that if they were going to do it, they would have done it, but we're going to raise it again. There are a number of other issues with regard to E-rate being utilized in a much more robust way than it is now, so that we can access funds and flexibility at the federal level through E-rate. So it'll be an interesting conversation with the chairman of the FCC, and we'll give you guys an update about how that conversation goes. And I know there were a couple of points, Tim, you and I were talking about that we want to really underscore. CITE, the State Association for IT Leaders, has been excellent about trying to underscore major things you need to be watching out for. And then Tim with Digital Advisors, with our digital advisors, have been doing the same. Tim, you have a couple of points you really wanted to emphasize.
Yeah, and by the way, it was awesome having Andrea on in the site community represented and all the great work that they're doing to support districts in this time around technology. A couple of things that I think, as a leader, you may not be a tech expert, or you may be, but there's a couple of things I think you shouldn't necessarily negotiate on. You're going to be presented with a lot of resources that people want to use to improve distance learning. And many of them may be wonderful. There's two things you can't negotiate on. One is the resources have to be CCPA compliant. And if you're not sure what CCPA compliance is, it's California Consumer Privacy Act. Very stringent data privacy protocols that every school district needs to adhere to. And this is basically a yes or no question. When somebody comes at you with an application or some sort of resource they want to use, you simply ask, is this CCPA compliant? If they're not sure, they have to find out. And if the answer is no, then I would encourage you to look for other resources that are similar that are compliant. The second thing is professional development is critical in any piece of technology, hardware or software. And a great example of professional development not being included in something that's been widely adopted is Zoom. And we're not pointing fingers or taking a political side here, but let's just say it doesn't matter what sort of resource you just put in people's hands without PD, there's going to be challenges. And now some people will just say, oh, the product failed. But if you don't put the PD in, it's actually, your efforts at implementing it that are lacking, and you definitely need to take some time to make sure you address PD in any of these resources. So again, if somebody brings you something that's not compliant with CCPA, doesn't have any professional development associated with it, please have them go back to the drawing board and come back with a more thoughtful proposal so that you can enhance your chances of success in this new reality. Finally, I'll just say large companies like Cisco and others are coming out with these deferred payment programs. They know that people need technology now, and they don't necessarily have the budget right now to address it. And, as Kevin mentioned, there may be some opportunities coming down the road, it opens up and who knows, or your, future budget cycles might allow. But if you need some software to protect yourself against ransomware and increase the, let's say, your ability to improve distance learning, there are companies out there that are really trying to help you in this financially and other ways. So please take advantage of those opportunities. And I don't know if you had anything to add there, Kevin, because I know maybe straddling fiscal years might present challenges, but that is something they should consider.
Yeah, one of the things that we heard, and I think it was Cisco was the example that I heard earlier this morning, but there are other major players that are deferring some of the costs and payments of some of the infrastructure that you might be acquiring into the next fiscal year. We're not talking about the one that starts on July 1st, but the following fiscal year. That's attractive given the fact that this coming year is going to be really, really tight. So if you need stuff, you got to get it online now. Make sure you're negotiating those things. Different companies are going to have different policies, but don't hesitate to ask about it, because by asking, you might get a lot of flexibility you wouldn't have otherwise expected you could get. The other thing yeah, go ahead, Tim.
No, please go ahead.
So the other thing I was going to mention was on school nutrition. The California School Nutrition Association has been working on this issue of meal reimbursement. Their PP&L committee met yesterday, and so they're wrestling with how we might go about this. There have been lots of different conversations, again, about what our message is to the feds on getting reimbursement. I know that one that the school nutrition director down in Long Beach was talking about, that he took a look at what was expended by the feds between March and June a year ago. It was a little over $7 billion. If we could have a hold harmless on that amount of money, so during those same months, we wouldn't get something less than that, would be great. I know CSNA's federal advocate is also working on another different angle on this, but we're still keeping the pressure on, and we'll give you an update as soon as we hear from those guys. And I think that's it. Tim, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we've been working hard to try to get some of this tech information out in digestible chunks through a little video series called Digital Transformation Video Series. If you haven't had a chance, please jump over to our website. You can see it here on the screen. And this is thought leaders like Bob Wise, Alan November, some amazing folks, former Seattle Chief Technology Officer John Kroll, and many other wonderful contributors talking about avoiding ransomware and other things that you need to know as a technical or a non-technical leader. So please jump online and check out those videos. And I want to say thanks again, Kevin, for this opportunity to to collaborate with you and to share some of the top news that's happening right now in tech and of course politics on your end.
Great. And then when you go onto the Capital Advisors website and you click on this video to get it started, you'll notice that the prior versions of it had this same graphic on it, and obviously it's our budget update and political update. But it's a little reminder that the digital transformation video series is more than that. It's these other videos that we've produced with digital advisors that I think are going to end up really helpful to you. So that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kevin.